sound. Gotta get a sound check. It's up here.
It's time for another edition of the McManus News.
Good morning, Mustangs. I'm Addison Sweet, Jada Rodarte.
Ashton Amador, Damian Ryan.
Elsa Romero, and this is Mia Ryan.
Ahoy, McManus. This is Captain Keen here.
It's your old friend, Sergeant Stern.
It's Oscar the Mile. It's Manny the Mustang time.
It's sriracha, mustard, and ketchup. They're at it again.
It's your old friend, Count Dracula.
It's Iron Man!
Last week, several McManus students participated in the Special Olympics school site track meet, where they excelled in running, jumping, and throwing activities. Way to go, everyone!
You may have noticed a lot of improvements around campus. That's right, Mia. Volunteers from McManus teamed up with our friends at Recology to beautify our campus. This is a pretty epic first day of school with the solar eclipse going on. Here are some pictures of our own McManus students checking it out. Our own McManus News Group went on a field trip last week to the Action News Now studio and had a personal tour from Megan Wallace. Check out these awesome pictures from our field trip.
Are these students being safe, respectful, and responsible? You be the judge.
That's all, folks.
So you can see we have a pretty good time doing it. So I would like to bring up some of the crew, past and present, from last year's crew, which are now in middle school. I have Elsa Romero, come on up. Amelia Sparrow. And from this year's crew, we have Kevin and Jesus Medina Tinoco and Jada Rodarte. So why don't you guys come here, and then they'll ask you questions. Do you guys have any questions for our crew?
How do you decide what news story you want to highlight?
Usually we just, whatever we have coming up is what we base it on. So like Pink Shirt Day, we did a news on that.
And holidays and breaks.
And no one thought to teach, and no one thought to teach the teachers how to dance better?
Do you know where you got your AV equipment, your cameras and your production equipment? How did that come about?
Our teacher found it online and in stores.
Wow.
I have a question. Do you think you'd want to do this in high school too?
Yeah.
Very good, very good.
How long does it take to put one of these news shows together?
Usually we film a week and then we edit it for a week.
So there's three of you, I guess, that are from the current group that works on this. How many total work on this project?
We have one missing from the current news and we have 4 2 missing from the current news, and we have 4 missing from the last news group.
Okay.
And it's the 3rd year, yeah.
So as a total, how many work together on this each time?
6.
6? Well, that's very impressive. Thank you very much.
You know, they also are all very, very good when Mrs. Keen sees something happening on campus that needs a reminder out to our friends at school. I always come to these guys and ask them if they could help out, and they do it, and they do it in a very creative, fun way. A great reminder to be safe, respectful, and responsible. So they're always good to me. They work hard, and thank you parents that are here that brought their kiddos tonight. We appreciate that.
So
Thank you.
maybe we're going to see you guys on TV again.
Again, a big thank you to our McManus crew. Thank you for sharing your stories and your technology with us tonight. In regards to the superintendent's report, our superintendent's award winner that was scheduled for tonight is Walmart. They could not be here to accept, so we will find another time to give it to them. But I did want to share what they have done for us this year. Walmart partnered with us. We have a requirement that all 7th graders have Tdap vaccinations before they enter into 7th grade. And Walmart partnered with us to ensure that all of our 6th graders were indeed vaccinated with either low cost or free vaccinations. So a huge thank you to Walmart for their partnership. And that concludes the superintendent's report, so I'll hand it back to our president.
Very good. Do we have any announcements? None. I have one. Score of the field hockey game between PV and Chico. It's Chico 3, PV 0.
Mr. Shepard is in his red in
I see
recognition of that.
He's yes. Go ahead.
And I just want to remind everybody that the Classic Almond Bowl is this Friday, 7 o'clock at Chico State. And I'm going to win the car. But if you don't think that's true, go buy a ticket.
I think the fine print said that board members were not allowed to win. Just kidding. We paid for them. We paid for the tickets. Okay, very well. Also on that, the junior varsity game starts at 5. And I believe the Peanut Bowl is tomorrow at Chico High, correct? No, at PV. That's right. I'm sorry, at PV. And that starts at what time, Mr. Shepard? 5:30. Okay. All right, so next is items from the floor. If there's something that is not on the agenda tonight and somebody would like to come forward, now is your time. Okay, I see one. Hi, if you could please state your name. And
Hi, my name is Jonah Platt. I could tell you a little bit more about myself a little bit later, as long as we get this on the agenda. I'm interested in talking about organic and local food in our school system, and I'd love to learn all about it and just start a conversation and open it up to see if anyone else wants to work on this project with me or if anyone else has information for me.
okay, so you probably need to get his name, I believe it is. There's a clipboard up there. So yeah, if you could give us your name and how we can contact you, and Erica will do that. We will do that. Very good topic.
Thank you.
Okay. And are there any others from items from the floor? Something that's not on the agenda? Okay, so he's getting his information there. And we can move on to negotiation updates. Mr. Hanlon?
All right, so we have a meeting planned for October 24th with CSEA. That'll be our first meeting. Looking forward to that. We've already met with CUTA 3 times. We'll have our 4th meeting on October 25th. The conversations have been very constructive and very positive, and we continue to work on a wage increase in the format of a multi-year. So we'll hopefully continue to make progress on that.
Very well. Okay, and now we can move down to the consent agenda. Do we have any items to be pulled?
I have none.
None? Okay, none, so,
I move that we pass the items on the consent calendar.
Second.
okay, we have a motion that has been made and it has a second. Do we have any conversation on that? Anything from the audience on the consent agenda? I see none. All those in favor with a roll call vote?
Griffin, aye.
Hovey, aye.
Loosdahl, aye.
Kaiser, aye.
Robinson, aye.
Okay, consent agenda passes 5-0. Okay. So now we will move on to item 10.1.1. Mr. Gilzine, I believe.
Good evening, Randy Gilzine, teacher on assignment to the district for 1 period a day for athletic purposes. Before I get to the folder I've put on the desk for you, I'd like to just say, flashback 6 years, a little over 6 years ago, and athletics was in a terrible state. The discussion in May of 2011 was, do we cut all freshmen and JV sports, or do we cut all sports that don't charge admission? I'd just like to, from the community of Chico, thank you for making the tough decision to go to a third option and spread the responsibilities and keep all sports. For the 6th year in a row, all sports are in the positive in their accounts, and athletics is in a great state right now. And thank you for the decision you made back then. Let me click on so that people can kind of see where we're going along. At any time, feel free to stop me. It's a big packet of information here. A lot of it you can digest later, but I just want to sort of explain what's in the packet here. The first is kind of a tough document to read, but it's a participation census from the state of California. We have to do it online now, and this is a huge database that goes all the way to like double Z on the database. So I cut it and paste it into columns to make it a little easier to read and not have 7 long pages. So that's what this is, to make it a little more user-friendly. So it covers everything from the coaches and how many male coaches coach female sports, how many female coaches coach male sports, how many volunteer coaches. And just to give you an approximate number, at each high school we have approximately 150 coaches right now. That includes paid, volunteer, head coach, assistants, everybody that's cleared through our coaches education program. So it's quite a large number that we're working with now. So if you have any questions about this document, or if you don't want to try and digest it now and look at it and want to call me later, feel free to call me at any time. Yeah, Ms. Kaiser.
One, and this is a comment, I really would have appreciated a summation so I could have assessed this before we met. But in terms of the male-female athletic participation between the high schools, how are we that way?
Fairly even. If you go to the next packet, this was just to give you the overall thing. The next one is the Title IX survey that we do every other year in the spring. So these are the results from this last year. Now you'll see one glitch at each high school as we go through this packet. In trying to save a lot of costs of paper, I ran 1,200 surveys, figuring I could use them at both schools. So we did PV on a Thursday. I gathered all the surveys back up Friday, put them back into packets by classes, and got them to Chico High to go the next Tuesday. Well, that happened to be the week before finals, and a lot of teachers chose not to do it. And so the numbers at Chico High, I'm not blaming anybody, I understand the timing was bad, are a little lower. They didn't have, especially for some reason, the junior classes did not complete a lot of surveys. So that was a glitch there. At PV, you'll see the glitch later that in the summer updates of the computers, the whole folder in the comptroller's office and the AD office lost for donations. So it appears that the PV donations are much lower, where in reality some of the information was just lost. I collected as much as I could from as many donors as I could and looking back at agendas, but I'm sure I missed some. So there's kind of a glitch at each school in the reports here, and they're noted in those cases. So this is actually a 3-page document. First, all the numbers, and then the yellow pages for Chico. I tried to color code it so it was a little easier not having to read everything, and the blue pages for PV, and it includes on the front side those interested in playing a sport in the future that may not have, and then organized sports played outside of school, so we can sort of see if there's a trend developing outside of school. And then on the back are suggested sports that we might want to add, and it's kind of interesting to look at all the options that the students want to add into the school. Everything from roller skating to yoga to frisbee golf to gymnastics. It's quite an extensive list at each high school. And then the next page is a 1-page pink requirement. I just thought you should know what we're requiring of all our coaches now. This is updated. I'm not sure you're aware of it, but we have a new, easier, finally, method of doing TB tests, where it's a survey. The nurses meet once a week down at the district office, and this goes for teachers and coaches. But they just go in and answer 5 questions. If they're not in any of the high-risk groups, they're cleared for the 4 years. They don't need the x-ray. They don't need the TB test unless they're in one of the high-risk groups. So it's about a 5-minute survey, and they're cleared for the 4 years. So that's helped a lot. As you can see, there's quite a few mandates from the state on that pink list that are done through the National Federation of High Schools, NFHS. That's a great program with 37 different courses, everything from individual sport coaches to concussion courses and everything. So we require 6 of those to be done. Yes?
So we, as a athletic context, we focused initially on football, but I know that we're seeing the risk of concussions in a number of sports. So is there any sports that we don't require the concussion training?
No, that is now a mandate of all coaches. Originally, it was a CIF rule.
Yeah.
And they said at that time it was going to be grandfathered in. Everybody that took it only took it once. Then it became a state law. Actually, the California legislature took it on as a big issue, and they said, no, you got to renew it every 2 years. So last year in my orientation course, we did it online. So I knew everybody was caught up to date at that point, and now they're redoing it on their own every 2 years.
All right, great. Thank you very much.
And then the first green sheet there, the next sheet is probably one you want to look at. These are all the costs and receipts and distributions for athletics. So we have donations at the top, and as I said, Chico has almost 89,000 in donations. That's for girls sports, boys sports, in general, or co-ed sports, where we can't split them. And their sports boosters made an additional, almost $75,000 additional directly to Chico USD and Chico Unified School District. So I noted that, but it wasn't to the high school, but I did want to note that. And then we have school accounts, team accounts, and those are broken down on the next document too. So I just wanted to give you a sort of a summary here. So Chico High's on the front side, and then the distributions for coaches, school accounts, what money was sent out, team accounts, and total expenses, including salaries. And then on the back side is Pleasant Valley's same numbers. Yeah, just. And then the next yellow and blue sheets are those same numbers just broken down by sport, so you can see the expenses by sport, both in their team accounts and the school accounts.
So, Randy, I hate to bring this up, but on the green sheet where it has incomplete totals as records lost during computer update, so what was exactly lost?
The folder that showed all the donations to the school for athletics.
Yeah, not the money.
Okay, so people can write these off as a tax write-off, correct?
Yeah, well, those letters had already gone out. This
Okay.
was after the fact, and the folder that just documented all of them in one place was lost.
Okay, so we're sure of who donated what amounts of
Yes.
money and all
Yeah,
of
all
that
that
is
was
still.
put on it.
Okay, so this is, all right. I just want to be clear about that, because
Sure.
I know we've
Oh,
had
yeah.
some
No.
problems in the past
No,
with certain things.
all the money's accounted for, all the donation sheets were lost, or not the sheets were lost, but just a single accounting of it. So
Yeah,
I
and
went back
everybody got-
to the sheets and individually did it as much as I could, but.
Yeah, okay,
yeah.
thank you. No, I know.
Oh,
Okay,
no
thank you.
Yeah, this was during the summer when they were updating files and stuff by the IT people, and it just disappeared somehow. So I'm not much of an IT person, so I can't fully explain it. Okay, the next kind of buff, it's called buff officially paper, is just the coaches' compensation, because I know that was a big issue as we started modifying the coaches' salary schedule. Remember, we are allowing coaches that had been in the district on staff to continue on the factor schedule, and the new coaches, anybody hired, are going on to the new stipend schedule. And so this is, and it is a little higher, as we knew it would be initially, until those older coaches on the factor schedule, but it keeps them from getting automatic raises with the teacher raises. So that was the big issue. And then just the donation numbers broken out, but I also made sort of a personal judgment at the top. I'd like to read this real quick. While the dollar amounts listed below are impressive, the Sports Boosters groups at both high schools have done a far more than just raise money to keep our sports alive. At Chico High, their boosters help staff the gates at sporting events to reduce payouts and salaries. Additionally, they have overseen the car rally, run a crab feed fundraiser, and helped with concessions. At Pleasant Valley, the boosters ran a golf tournament for many years. They too have overseen the car raffle at PV, and over the last few years have taken on the tough task of getting donations from parents of each team to help offset the expense of transportation. We can never thank the sports boosters enough at each school, who over the last 15 to 18 years have helped save athletics in Chico Unified School District. Both groups have also been a driving force behind the improvement of the athletic facilities at both schools. Conservatively speaking, at each high school, they have raised well over $1 million in hard cash and just as much in volunteer time and effort. So I think we have to recognize the great efforts they've made in keeping athletics in the high schools as well. And then the next two pages are just the donations broken out by school, itemized there. Yes.
I just want to do a shout out to the roundtable, because besides the issue of the donations, they actually make it so that depending on what side of the town you're on, you can go to your school's roundtable festival and stuff like that. And I think it's very positive for a business organization to recognize that it's a part of the community spirit to support both. So that's really positive.
Yes, and they usually decorate their McDonald's during, or not roundtable during this week and things too. So next is just the cheerleading update. As you know, we moved sort of away from sideline cheerleading, and although our traditional sport cheer groups are doing the sideline right now, even though they're a team, they are continuing the sideline cheer as they prepare for competitions in the winter and spring. And then there will be separate tryouts in February for the sport cheer, competitive sport cheer, which will be a spring sport. So we have two sports, but they're sort of doing triple duty in that they're covering three different sideline is an activity now, and they're covering that through traditional. And then the sport cheer is doing the competitive part in the spring. Yes, go.
Okay, so there was quite a bit of concern in the competitive cheer community when there was the erroneous statement that it had to be a championship run by a school, and now I see that it did get the 1-year waiver. So I hope that we've made sure that all our schools know this, that they can do competitions. Because what it takes to run a competition is difficult for me to imagine that a school could pull it off.
Well, the school doesn't have to run it. They just have to host it. They have to be the
Host it.
host school. And CIF today put out a whole list of acceptable ones they can go to and not violate going out to a club
And are we
event.
letting the competitive cheer groups know
Yes.
that?
Yes, I happen to be up in Red Bluff at section meetings all day, a section executive or board of managers, and then a playoff committee chair meeting. So I know it's out there. I haven't gotten it to them, but we're having a meeting on Monday to discuss it, and I will send it to them tomorrow so they have it ahead
send
of
me
time.
one too, 'cause
Be glad to.
thank you.
Yep. Now, just looking to the future a bit, just to keep you updated on what's coming ahead. Next year, the CIF has decided, after 10 years of moving schools earlier and earlier and earlier, remember the good old days when we started after Labor Day? That no longer happens. Well, we've never adjusted the sports calendars. So the 3 pages that are horizontal, or landscape as we say, are the new dates, the old dates for last year, this year, and then the new dates for next year. So you see how they move. Golf, tennis, and cross country, because of other factors, did not move, but almost every other sport in the state of California moved 1 to 2 weeks earlier in the year. So they will be starting during August for the fall. During November, there will be basketball games, possibly before Thanksgiving weekend in the future. And then in February for the spring sports. Track has traditionally ended after school. The state championships were the week after we got out of school. So they're trying to get everything back in the school calendar. So just wanted you to know that these are all the sports that have a state championship. If they don't have a state championship, the state doesn't rule the timeline. Yeah.
I just think this is really important because we had kids who qualified for state championships who didn't go because it conflicted with graduation.
Correct.
And vice versa. So that's a really important consideration. I'm glad they're trying to do something.
And the one that may affect the school district a little bit financially, but again, the teams are raising most of their money, so not directly, is the yellow sheet. And this is put out by the state, just approved, first week in October. And you can see I left the front part on because it's kind of interesting to show all the committees they have to go through to approve something in the state. That's the list of committees it's been through. And then back are the new contest limits. Now, most sports are going up a couple, but part of it is they're changing the way they count tournaments. Historically, basketball counted contest for contest. It didn't matter. But volleyball and softball and soccer, because they play multiple contests in a day, would count a tournament as only 2 when they may have gotten 5 or 6 contests. Now they're going, if you look at the bottom part, it shows that. The other big change is in the area of scrimmages. Historically, we've had 3 scrimmages at each sport. Starting next year, it'll be only 2 scrimmages per sport, 1 for football. Again, they're trying to reduce contact in football. And they must all take place before the first contest. We used to save one in basketball, per se, and play it during winter break to stay in kind of in game competition. If you tried to do that, it would still count as a game contest, even though you wanted it as a scrimmage. So the idea is you complete your scrimmages, but if you want to save one, you have to count it as a game, not as a contest. I mean, a game, not as a scrimmage. So just thought yeah. And then the last one, real quick. Oh, sure.
Just clarification. So we have the issue of layoffs and physical conditioning, which are hopefully going to prevent injuries. And so the teams are able to practice. They just can't have a scrimmage against another team.
Right.
Okay, I think that clarification needs to be important.
Sure.
I saw some coaches getting ready to faint back there.
Yeah, they can still practice. They can scrimmage themselves. They just can't go outside scrim. And then the last one is the transfer rule. And transfers are becoming more and more common in athletics in the state. But they've changed the sit-out period. So there's a difference between transfer and a valid move. We're only talking about kids that transfer schools without a valid move of residence. So it used to be it was a preset date for all sports, like it was October 2nd for the fall sports. If they transferred during the summer, they didn't get to play in any contest till October 2nd. Okay. Now, starting next year, it's going to be sport by sport, and that's on the back of the white sheet. It will be sport by sport. 50% of the season, a transfer student will sit out. Okay. This is only good for their first transfer. They don't get this benefit. After that, they're limited eligibility, which means they can't play anything they played in their last school for a year if they're a junior or senior. Okay? Any other questions? I'm sorry I took a little longer than we had planned, but.
Thank you.
I
One question.
Yeah, I did. I thought of it after you'd passed it, Randy.
Sure.
You had listed the survey of sports of interest.
Yeah.
I saw that lacrosse was the thing at the top, and I know we have local lacrosse competitions with Chico State and stuff, so that there would be, well, there's actually more interest in lacrosse than I think most of us realize. At what point do we consider taking a realistic look at the cost, what's the tipping point for?
Well, normally it's a financial, we do a financial study to see how realistic it is. Right now there's not much in Northern California from school standpoint. Southern California, it's become a pretty regular. Former student of mine, when I taught at Chico Junior, actually runs one of the biggest lacrosse groups down in Southern California in Irvine. So I'm pretty familiar keeping up with how heavy it is down there. We do have clubs here, but clubs cannot compete against school teams, so there's not much school activity. Rugby is actually another one. Black Oak Rugby is very big here in Chico, and so we have quite a few new sports that we need to keep an eye on. Are they getting to the point where we need to seriously consider adding them? And as our philosophy of the district says, if we're going to add one, we need to look which one is least appealing and maybe drop it. We're not going to try and keep adding, because right now we have more sports than any school north of Sacramento. PV and Chico each have more sports than any other school up here, so we can't keep adding and adding and adding. Yeah, that's true. But we weren't for a long time, and we haven't changed sports much, yeah. Yep, feel free to call me at any time if you have other questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a camera issue. And right now it's probably a good time to let you know that if you go to the Chico Unified School webpage and you go to the board area, the Board of Trustees, there is a link so that you can either watch the broadcast. If there's something you missed and you want to see it, it's there, and it's also streamed live. So just to let you know that. Okay, we are now moving to our, we have a public hearing coming up for Pivot North Valley 2 charter petition. Okay, and I will open the public hearing.
Wait, let them.
I will not open the public hearing.
Let's let them do their presentation, and then we'll open the public hearing.
Okay, that's very good.
Is it the one that says school board? I don't know where you put it on. I am, but I just want to look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, I won't start that. Okay, so by California Ed Code, when a organization or a group turns in a charter petition, we have 30 days from submittal to hold a public hearing, and then 60 days from submittal to render a decision. So tonight is 30 days from the time that we received a charter petition from Pivot North Valley 2 Charter School. So we will, we have Jana Gaskell here as the Executive Director of Pivot Charter School. They will do a 10-minute presentation, and then after that we'll have the public hearing.
Okay.
Good evening, President Lustal and Superintendent Staley and board members and the public. We are sincerely honored to be here tonight before you, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. going to show
My
you
name is Jim Lewis. I have the privilege of serving as chairman of the board of directors, and also I'm the
I wanted to make it bigger. Erica, do I? Comes on pretty quickly.
My name is Jim Lewis. I have the privilege of serving as chairman of the board of directors, and also I'm the founder of Pivot. So I've been with Pivot since August of 2008. Pivot is special because we give kids an opportunity to achieve their dreams where they wouldn't have otherwise had it. With a faculty of teachers who really, truly cares about them, can invest in them and give them the quality time they deserve.
It's amazing to see a student who hasn't felt success in an academic arena all of a sudden actually accomplish something academically. And there is just nothing like it anywhere. And it happens every single day, all day long at Pivot.
And our school is really focused on those students who, whether they needed alternative learning, the traditional school system wasn't working for them, they were bullied, they had family issues, health issues. In a traditional system, those students would fall through the cracks. The name of our school, Pivot Charter School, really means we are pivoting the future of these young people, giving them a chance to get a high school diploma so they can move on to whatever it is that will help them have success in life.
The students at Pivot are about as unique as every star in the sky. They all are coming to us for different reasons, and the one thing that sort of is their commonality that binds them together as a team is that there was something not working for them in a traditional school setting. And that's it. Other than that, they're all coming to us for different reasons, and we've got it all here. You know, there are in every educator's lives these circumstances where you go, gosh, I can't save that student. I don't know what to do for them. That doesn't happen at Pivot. We always find a way.
I volunteer as a board member for Pivot because I believe we all have to come together to give everyone an education. Education is key to success. My volunteering and the commitment I give, it is time away from my work and time away from my family, but I feel so good about it because I see one at a time these students who probably weren't going very far at all, if not in a bad direction, have a chance to pivot their life and find success. And it is the most rewarding thing I've ever done. Pivot's a great investment because we're financially solid. Our blended learning model has proven track record for success. Our teachers and our staff care deeply. They're passionate. They're committed, professional people. And our board provides solid leadership, solid strength for the school to succeed.
We are a free public school doing things a little bit differently for the students who need different. We are an option. One system can no longer meet all of the needs of all of the kids. Traditional schools meet a lot of needs of a lot of children, and we meet the needs of a lot of other children.
Just real quickly, for those of you who are here in support of Pivot Charter School, can you just raise your hand so you can show the board? Thank you, everybody. Hi, everybody. Thank you for the time tonight. I will be going over a lot of information in 10 minutes. I will not be able to get it all in, so that you can see that we not only talk the talk, but that we walk the walk. I implore you to please come visit us. It's really the only way to understand us. I am so grateful for the board members who have already taken the time to see us and so many of the staff who have come to visit. It's been a joy to meet them and to get all of their questions. So please come visit us so you can really understand it. I won't be able to explain it all today. But the most important thing that we have to talk to you about is our students. We get kids from all different walks of life, and as I said in the video, their most common denominator is that they're coming to us because something wasn't working in their education, and that's it. And it's for many, many different reasons, and all of these reasons here on your screen about the students who come to us literally comes from surveys. We do surveys as to why they are coming and who these students are, and there are angels. Those are our students that just need us sometimes for a very short period of time. Most of them are coming from Chico Unified. Obviously, there's quite a large percentage of students that don't like to say where they came from, or we can't find them in CalPads, but most of the students are Chico Unified residents. We have a lot of diverse students because we have about 70–80% of our students are high school. A lot of times our students have been reclassified, so our EL numbers have been very low over the historical time, but we do have a lot of families that are homeless. We have a lot of foster students and a lot of families that qualify for that are socioeconomically disadvantaged. We're running about 14% when I wrote this slide, but we're already up to about 16% special education, and it will continue to grow because we will take students throughout the year as well. One of the things that is unique about Pivot, if you think about the concept that we were talking about in the video, we are here to literally pivot these kids. We are getting them, they're slipping through the cracks, and we're trying to pivot their attitudes and their motivation and their academics. And so therefore, the majority of our students every year are new because they are coming to us working on something, whether it's social or academic, and then they're going back. And I have a slide to show you that they're coming back to the traditional school districts because a lot of times that's what they're planning to do. That's what they're using Pivot for. It's our mission, and we're accomplishing that mission, as you see from the slides and the data. As I mentioned earlier, there's over 70% of our kids, depending on the school year, that are high school students. And I think it's because, you know, that light bulb goes off sometimes sophomore, junior year. That's about usually when it kicks in. And they're like, hey, I got to get my high school career together, and I really want a high school diploma. And I'm not doing so well where I'm at, so let's go try something different. So our biggest classes are usually our sophomore and junior classes. We do not want to be a virtual school. That is not why we're using an online curriculum. I'll let the kids and the families speak to that later. We're using the online curriculum because our students, our teachers can individualize every single thing for these kids. One kid could be working on one course for 1 month and a second course for another month, or another high school student can be having all 6 of their classes open at once. They can go fast, they can go slow, they can do honors and AP classes and take concurrent enrollment over at Butte. And every kid is working on something completely different. And it's the teacher's job with their caseload of kids to get inside of their heads and figure out what that kid needs to be successful. That's why we use an online curriculum. You can't do that when you have one class of 35 or 30 kids. And we don't want to be some big virtual school. We've been here now since 2009. We have 130 kids. We've got to stay small to meet our mission. It is our mission to stay small so that we can do what we're doing right now. We do have this wonderful resource center. Again, please come by and see us. A lot of things happen at the resource center. We have clubs and electives and tutoring and writing classes and math workshops. And I believe somebody saw our Dungeons and Dragons club that's run by the students. A lot of electives and just a lot of teachers walking around helping students in their academics, and a lot of kids socializing and learning how to socialize and be in groups and have fun with learning. We get them off the computer as much as we keep them on the computer. Again, that's part of who we are. That's part of what a blended learning program is all about. I know special education is typically a sticky wicket. We love special education. We are a member, we are our own LEA in the El Dorado Charter SELPA. The district is not responsible or liable in any way for our special education services, students, any fair hearings or due processes. We have a director of special education, but special education is my background. They're my babies. Frankly, our general ed program is like a typical, sometimes resource program, special ed program, SAI program, because our kids can do resets, they can go fast, they can go slow, they can redo things, they can ask questions one-on-one in very small groups, get a lot of tutoring, and that's what you see in a typical special ed classroom with small learning environments. And then you add that we have that as our general ed program, and our special ed program is even more intensified, more one-on-one and small group. We are very proud of it, and knock on wood, in 33 years, I've never had a fair hearing or a due process that I didn't initiate myself to try to get a parent to do the right thing, and we will keep that track record. And we obviously, as our own LEA, we take every student that walks in the door. We have OT, PT, obviously we have SAI, we have nurses on campus, that one of our other pivots that has to do a suction through a breathing tube. If the student enrolls in our school, which everyone can, then we are there to serve them, and there's absolutely nothing that we won't be able to service with our special ed students in one way or another. We get to have a lot of fun. Did I mention we like to take them off the computer? We do field trips about every other week, or a fun Friday. We've been to a lot of places. This Friday, the kids are going to Alcatraz. Who's going to Alcatraz? They're going to San Francisco. I mean, a lot of our students have never been out of Butte County, and so we do like to take them on, we take them to Ashland for the Shakespeare Festival overnight up in Oregon. They went to the prom at Pivot North Bay down in Santa Rosa last year, and they got to participate in the prom and be like a combo sister school kind of a thing, and they slept overnight, and boys over here, girls over here, teachers monitoring it, and they slept on the floor, and they had a big prom that night. So we do like to have fun and get the kids out and socializing, and again, get them off of the computers. Just because that's our instructional delivery method, that computer is our textbook, doesn't mean we want them on the computers all the time. And we do a lot of clubs and fun Fridays, art clubs, Dungeons and Dragons, Minecraft, health and fitness. They get dressed up and come in their pajamas one day, have a movie day, have a hat day. They do really get along very, very well. It's a close-knit community. There's none of the social mumbo-jumbo that you typically see in a large school sometimes with the kids. They're smiling a lot. They even got to play in the snow last year and go ice skating. We have 4 small pivot schools. There is one reason for that, and that is because a school that has 130 students, which is the size, except for our North Bay, which has in different circumstances, it would be tough to be able to fiscally be self-sustaining and have a superintendent and a director of special ed and a program director and a CBO and be able to do the things that you need to do. It would be very, very hard to have a 130 student school and be fiscally sound. When we create it like a small network and there's shared expenses and shared staffing, like my role, like the director of special ed, et cetera, it allows us to maintain our small schools. That is the reason why we do it. The economy of scale that a district has, while it's much bigger, obviously, we're creating so that we can keep these schools small and keep them fiscally sound and utilize the resources. I know I sent you all some data. They came from some great questions that your staff and some of the board members have asked because it's a lot of information and I couldn't get it all in 10 minutes, but we are WASC accredited. We have our full A through G course list. We have a copy of that if you would like it with us today. We are implementing iReady. We're working with the county office on that at all 4 pivots actually to create our internal measurements, our internal growth measurements, our local indicators, so to speak, from the dashboard. We currently use Apex, Compass, Edgenuity, and Edmentum curriculum at the different grade levels. We use them all for different reasons and have different courses within those complex curriculum. All of our employees that work 25 hours a week or more receive 100% of their medical, dental, and vision paid for. That's a really important thing. We're a very teacher-centered school as much as we are a student-centered school, a very much of a staff-oriented school. And obviously, we're focusing very hard on keeping our student-to-teacher ratio, our ADA to FTE ratio. If you walk on our campus, which again, I'll say it again, please come do, you will see that there might be 30 kids, 20 kids sitting there, and you'll see 4 or 5 teachers walking around working with each and every one of those kids. And as you'll see from our board members' backgrounds in the charter, we have public agents on our board, and they know that these are public dollars, and we are putting all of our monies directly towards instruction, and and obviously by default to the students. That 5.3 green area is our instructional materials and supplies, which includes our online curriculum. Those are like our textbooks at a traditional school, plus all of our extemporaneous supplemental curriculum as well, at 5.3% of our budget. Most of it is going towards our classified and certificated salaries. And that 8% turquoise is field trips and professional development. I think we're a very good steward of public dollars. Our board is amazing. It's not like a typical charter school board. We have 2 former superintendents. We have city managers. We have a public finance expert, Mr. Ralph Holmes, who is here tonight to be here with you all. And we have our local representative, longtime Chico local, O.J. Sutherland. He is also here tonight. He is here. He works with all of our local families and meets with them, and he is the representative for Chico. He is an entrepreneur of many, many talents. They meet around the state where we have resource centers. All of our families can watch and participate in our board meetings at our school sites through a video conferencing unit that our staff will set up every time we have a board meeting. So just because it might be in San Marcos doesn't mean that the Chico families can't watch and participate, and there's public discussion. And again, it's monitored by our teachers so that they can help with the AV equipment. So we make sure that they can participate in every single board meeting. And obviously, we do follow the Brown Act. A lot of charter schools are unknown about this particular item, but we have committed to the Political Reform Act and Government Code 1090 as well. Not all charter schools do that, but that's fairly easy for us to do. So we have committed to that as well. They're an amazing board. We've had some tough times. You know the budget times that hit us years ago. These guys and women are very bright, very dedicated. They're volunteers, and they've got the backs of these kids. That's why they do it. And I would never have survived or stayed around as long as we did through some of these tough times if it weren't for the governing board that really has been guiding this ship. The most important thing I would hope to you all is who are we with you as a potential authorizer. We have fabulous relationships with our current authorizers. We're in a unique situation. Shasta Anderson has caused us to come back to Chico Unified, but I'll be honest with you guys, look at the statistics. Our kids are Chico Unified kids, a lot of them, the majority of them. And local control is good, I believe. It's just, I'm a public educator. I've worked in districts. I've worked for, charters, but in districts as well. It's a good thing. It's a good thing that we're here. We have a very strong relationship with the districts. When you say jump, when Superintendent Staley says jump, I'm going to say how high. That should be our relationship, I believe, and it is the way we work with our other authorizers. And I know it's a hard thing to commit to overseeing a charter. So we try to look for what's in it for the district or what could be in it. One of the things on the bottom bullet here, student referrals. We have in all of our MOUs that if one of your counselors or your assistant principals or principals call us and say, hey, Ms. Raven, as site administrator, we've got a family here and things just aren't working out. We think they might be a good fit for Pivot. Can I send them to you? That's what I would call a referral, as opposed to the mom or the dad actually finding us. And we will educate that child, and you get to keep the ADA minus whatever our direct cost is, which is about 1/25 of a teacher's FTE salary and benefits. And the reason why we have to do that is if we didn't, it would be a gift of public funds. Why would we do that? Because we really do want to be a good partner. We're not just BSing, sorry. We do. We need to find how is it going to help your students and your teachers and your schools as well, because I know charters are not always easy for districts to think about approving, and we want to find what we could do to help with you all. Same reason why we give you first right of refusal for any contracts, of services. You might have, I don't know, extra bus drivers that you're paying them, but they aren't driving anywhere, and maybe we have a field trip. I'd rather pay you than pay the bus company we're going to hire. Again, it's not stuff we have to have from you. We've been doing it for years on our own, but we would like to give our authorizer the first right of refusal for those things, so maybe you can make up some change. It's going to be tough times with this LCFF funding for some of these districts in Butte County. I know that. So anyway, we like to have a strong collaborative relationship, and it's not just, we mean it. Let's put it that way. I would love to answer as many questions as you have. Hit me with the tough ones. Please come visit with us and ask questions, or ask now.
You noted that you have the list of courses, and you've said in your documentation several times that you UC Davis approved substitute for the lab science class.
Yeah, can
So
I let
I'd
my,
like to see that, please.
yep. This is Liz Jones, who used to be handling all of our A through G course approvals, and Lindsay Vining, who is also our systems and accountability, who's starting to take that over. I'll let you speak to that.
Thank you. That's something that we hold very dear to our hearts, as we do have several students in different sort of, goals with their own families and their plans for after high school. One of the things that we do when students come to Pivot is we have a very, detailed consultation, and we look at their transcripts and everything like that to see, where are they with respect to meeting the A through G admission requirements for University of California. One of the things that they do provide as an alternative for a lab science course, if you do not take an A through G approved lab science course, you may take an SAT subject exam for that. Or sometimes they will, the students, if they can, and it works with their schedule, will take a lab science at Butte College or another local community college that also counts for full lab credit, and UC will accept that. Same for some visual and performing arts as well. They have some that are approved for our online curriculum, but not all of them. Also, if students do go the advanced route and take an AP course like AP Biology, and they score a sufficient score on the AP exam, that also counts for their lab science approval.
Hi, there also is a third option, or another option here in Chico. The Chico Creek Nature Center offers A through G approved labs for biology, chemistry, physics, earth science, and I believe physical science. So for a cost, students can take labs there. And I've encouraged a lot of my UC-bound kids to take our biology and take the lab at the Chico Creek Nature Center and have that credit attached to our transcripts. So some students are going to take us up on that option. We haven't had any yet, but I offer it to every kid who wants to go to college.
Any other questions?
Your sound is off.
Pardon?
Your sound is, oh, you're just, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to clarify when you did the public hearing. You mean now for people coming up? Or not?
Okay. As far as graduation rates, so the number of students that come to you specifically for that, to catch up, to graduate, what is your graduation rate?
It's hard to pinpoint because they'll come to us for that, but then they'll get their act together, or they will feel better about their academics and go back. So we only have usually a graduating class of like 12 or 15, but I might have 40 in both my sophomore and junior class. So we are still struggling with CalPads to figure out, like, of the kids who went back, and I thought I had a slide on there that showed you, but it's about 56 to 60% of our kids that go back to a traditional school. It's really hard for us to figure out where they went for that graduation rate, and that's how they measure that, that's how they track that cohort, so it's tough. If you look on our dashboard, it's going to show that our graduation rate isn't great. Some kids come to us as a last-ditch effort to get their act together, and they don't go somewhere after they leave us. So it's tough. It's a moving target, and it's not exactly easy for us to document. The easy answer, and it would be kind of sugarcoating it, or making it look better than it is to say, I have this many seniors at the beginning of the year, and this is how many graduate at the end of the year. But we all know that that's not a true graduation rate. If it was just that number, we'd say we had 97%, but that's not a real graduation rate. It's kids who have been with us, but our whole mission is to send them back. So it's hard. It's to pivot their lives and have them go on.
So what sort of metrics do you use to calculate and determine how successful you're being?
That's a great question, Ms. Griffin. It's been hard. It's like from one year to the next, it's like apples and kiwis, because our population is so different. Even with our number of students who take, because there's only 11th grade that's taking the SBACs, that's not going to be helpful to us. That is why we are implementing iReady assessments this year, because we do need our own internal measures showing growth of every single student that walks in the door, and the SBAC wasn't cutting it. And obviously we went for years without anything, and then we're this good school, we think, and we get these SBACs, and we're like, wait, this is not telling us anything. And yes, we have embedded assessments in all of our curriculum. The kids write essays and papers, and they get tests and unit tests and final exams with all of our online curriculum, but that doesn't tell you anything either. You want to really say, these are the standards, you know, this is the NGSS standards or whatever, and this is how our kids are performing and growing towards meeting the standards. So that's why we're using the iReady this year, again, in partnership with the county office, because we need to have that internal measurement to be able to prove not just to our authorizers, but to ourselves, hey, this is where this kid came in at, and this is what we did to work with them, and now that this is where they are in meeting those standards. We also purchased the instructional part of iReady. It tests the kids, and it says, well, this is where they are in meeting the standards, and these are the 10 things that they have to improve upon. And it actually creates an individualized plan. And I know you use it here in the district too. So we bought the instructional program as well to supplement and having the kids get instructional plans based on where their gaps are from the iReady. We researched a lot of things. The iReady is as aligned to the SBAC and to Common Core and the NGSS standards as anything out there, more so. Everybody claims to be, but they're not. And we really test drove that one to find out that it's the best thing we could use.
And I'm sure that there's other measures that you're concerned with, things like improved attendance, reductions in truancy.
Grades, credits.
But other improvements that we may not necessarily be, you know, improvements in personal growth based on the student population. If what you say is true, that a lot of the students had difficulty with, for whatever reason, being in this type of setting that they were in the school, how have they improved? How have they adjusted? What have you provided that has made the difference? That type of thing.
And that's, a lot of it is anecdotal from the teachers because they get to know these kids so well and they know them for years at times sometimes, the ones that don't go back. And it's them being able to be successful and actually pass classes. A junior that comes to us with 10 credits, we can start to catch them up and we turn their attitude around about their academics so that they are dedicated to catching up. And it's not easy. A lot of the kids come and say, oh, it's going to be this online curriculum. It's going to be really, really easy for me to get all my credits back from 3 years. Doesn't work that way. The student really has to figure out and learn with their teachers how to study. That's why we want them at the resource center. Eyeballs to eyeballs, from credentialed teacher to a kid, is the most important thing. So those teachers are getting in there and trying to figure it out, but a lot of our evidence is going to be anecdotal. Well, did he go from having 10 credits to 35 in a year, which some of our kids can do? That's a huge win, huge win. Just passing a class for the first time in a year or two is a huge win for a lot of our students.
Eileen?
Thank you. On page 12 of your petition, you make a statement that an emphasis on community college concurrent enrollment is made. What concurrent enrollment program do you use? College Connection or 2x2? What's
Would you mind if our site administrator speaks to that? She's actually also a Butte College
that's
professor.
what I'd like to
Susan
know.
Raven. Hi, I'm Susan Raven. I'm the site administrator for Pivot North Valley. A lot of our students do concurrent enrollment through Butte College. I believe we had one student do concurrent enrollment at Yuba College, take sign language with, I think, his mother. But a lot of our students do concurrent enrollment, and I've had at least 3 of our students take my night class. I teach math at night, and they take my algebra class. So the first time they're taking a class at Butte, a hard class at Butte, it's from someone they know. We encourage a lot of our students to start by taking a PE class or art, a VEPA class of some sort, music, theater, drama. We do tours to the Butte College and Chico State every year, but a lot of our students are taking advantage of that.
So it's, I thought that when Butte College takes a high school student, it has to be through a recognized program so that there's delineation of which program gets the ADA for the student and how the credits are applied, whether they're applied to a high school diploma or applied to college credit. How has that worked out?
There has been many a legislation to try to do away with or redo the whole community college and high school concurrent enrollment because the state sees it as double dipping. Every time the legislation comes up, because I've been an educator for 33 years, it's very cyclical, it gets shot down. Therefore, every high school in the state can claim you have a student fully enrolled full-time at the high school, and there are limits in every college, every community college limits it differently as to how many classes a student can take at the community college while they're also enrolled full-time at a public high school. But there are no constraints other than that which the auditors place on community colleges. It is sort of double dipping. They do get credit for their high school class as well as they get college credit on their transcripts as well. So for example, there are several charter schools here in Butte County that focus on that. Core Butte, kids will graduate with an AA degree at the same time they're receiving their high school diploma because they did so much concurrent enrollment their sophomore, junior, and senior year. We've had one or two get very close. I don't think we have any this year with an AA degree. It's allowed in the state of California legally. I don't think it's the state's favorite thing, and there's not a lot of kids, unfortunately, that take advantage of it, to be honest with you. You would think it's not free, but it's almost free college classes, and yet they don't take advantage of it. So, but it's perfectly allowed and legal still, and I hope they don't ever pass that legislation. It's a good thing for kids.
Anybody else? I think we're good.
Thank you so much again for your time. We hope to see some of you on campus soon. Just stop by anytime.
Thank you very much.
Now would be the time to start the public
Now
hearing.
the time. I now open the public hearing for Pivot Charter School. And while I'm doing that, how many people are freezing in here? It's kind of cold. Is there a way we can turn the air off? It's 69 degrees outside, I just checked, so I don't think we need the air blowing. Thank you. Okay, so, I'm sorry?
Go for the rules.
I'm going to. During this public hearing, now we spoke earlier, and I believe you have 3 speakers that are going to speak for you that have the 3-minute time period. And I want to check now, do we have anybody here that is going to speak in opposition of this charter? Okay, seeing none. So then after your 3 speakers, we'll have a 3-minute time period, which Mr. Hanlon will be keeping the time, and he has his timer and his red, there you go. So you know your time is up. And then also, I believe you said you had other speakers that we can also use the time that there's no opposition to come up, and it sounded like they were just going to speak briefly. The total time that we can give for them is 10 minutes. Not for each person, just the total altogether. Okay, so anything that I missed, trustees? Okay.
Oh, ask them not to repeat.
Oh yeah, no, repetition. If you could, if somebody's already said it, then you don't need to. Also, what's available to you also is that our email addresses are all on our district webpage for each one of us. So please write to us. Don't just be limited to this 10 minutes time that's going on. You can write us letters. We love to receive letters, and we respond back too. Okay? So why don't we start with those 3 speakers you have, and Mr. Hanlon will be timing, make sure we have the correct time.
Oh, hello. My name is Melanie Nolan. I'm a teacher in Tama County. I also am a parent of a 12-year-old son. He has Asperger's, and I am proud to say that he attends Pivot Charter School. This is his 2nd year. We came to Pivot because I decided it was time for his education to be designed around his particular needs. We've stayed at Pivot because Pivot has given us hope. I have hope that my son will form friendships. I have hope that he will find his educational passion. I have hope that he will graduate. I even have a little smidgy of hope that he will participate in the graduation ceremony. Yeah. I have hope that he and I can continue to have a parent and child relationship that is one of enjoyment, the way a parent-child relationship should be, instead of a relationship that is centered around the stress and anxiety that school can bring to students like my son. I have encountered nothing but unwavering support from all the staff at Pivot, from his counselors to his special ed services and to his regular teacher that carries his caseload. Pivot is very important to us. And I was just mentioning before we came to the meeting that the thought of Pivot not being here is enough to send me into the biggest panic attack that I've probably ever had. So just a little note there for you. Pivot, my greatest hope is that Pivot continues to be a presence here and that Pivot continues to provide hope to other students and families like mine. Thank you.
Is that working? All right. Hi, my name is Tom Lando. I'm a teacher at Pivot. I've also taught in some, sorry. Sound's not coming through? Better? Okay, they'll work it out for me. Try that again. My name is Tom Lando. I am a teacher at Pivot. I've also taught in some of the traditional districts around here. This is my first year at Pivot, and the experience has been amazing, getting to watch how the students and teachers interact. But I really want to focus on talking to you guys about how the student experience is different at Pivot. I have a student who came to us about halfway through September this year. He and his father, are homeless and had been bouncing around a couple of different counties and districts. And we took the student in and got to know him a little bit. And then for the first 2 weeks of enrollment, there was almost no work getting done. The student was trying to be mostly virtual. And after a laborious process of tracking down whose couch the student was sleeping on, we got a hold of him and coaxed him into the campus for a meeting. And I just remember the student's face when he came in, because I've been teaching for a while, and I know that look on the student's face when they are ready for a lecture. And this student came in ready for a lecture about attendance and hard work, and he just looked defeated already. And the thing I love about Pivot is that we had the time and the resources to sit down with this student for an hour and just talk about what was going on with life and how hard it must be to be in the position they were in. And I found out so much amazing stuff about him. He's smart and he's driven and he really wants to be a beekeeper when he grows up. And after about half an hour, his face started to open up because he saw, okay, I'm not getting the lecture. They actually want to know about me. And we pulled in another teacher, a math teacher, to talk about math anxiety and how the plan we were using for the student wasn't working and what we could do differently. And sorry. Finally, after about an hour of this, the student just started crying and smiling at the same time. And you could just see some of that tension and that frustration that this student who was so smart and ready to be good at school just relieved some of that tension around the homelessness and the not being able to do what they knew they could do. And the student promised that he would come in to school the next day. And so the next day we waited and we waited. And with an hour left in the day, the student finally came in, scared, nervous, expecting another lecture about being late, and said literally every teacher who saw that student greeted them by name, knew their story, said, "Hi, we're glad you're here. We found a place for the student to work." Our math teacher sat down right then and there and worked with that student, coaching them through some of our math curriculum. That student got more work done in that one afternoon than they had in 2 weeks previously. Next day, the student came in beating himself up because he was late and he couldn't get on a good schedule because he was, again, couch surfing with friends. And one of our staff went out that moment, came back 15 minutes later. I have never seen a student so happy to receive a $10 plastic alarm clock. But he was, and it made his day to know that we were there. He came with flowers for us the next day.
Tom, yeah, I think your time went here, but
way
we
over.
thank you so much.
I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you
Thank you.
again, Dr.
Thank you very much.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and Chico Unified School District board members. My name is Thomas Draper. I am 18 years old, and I'm a senior in high school at Pivot North Valley. This is my second year here at Pivot. During my time at Pivot, I have made a lot of new friends and met some of the most amazing teachers ever. There are so many reasons why Pivot is awesome. One reason why Pivot is great. There's a lot of students who are unique in their own ways, which makes this school so much greater because we can all get along and have a great time and not have to worry about fitting in or trying to be normal or having different opinions. The students at Pivot are what make the school as spectacular as it is. The second reason what makes Pivot the most incredible school ever is the staff. The staff at Pivot make a unique school just as much as the students. If I had to use one acronym to describe the staff at Pivot, it would be unique. The U would stand for unique because the staff are unique in their own way that makes them awesome. The N would stand for nice because they are caring about the students and are willing to do anything to help students achieve success. The I would stand for interesting because they always have something interesting to say or show you, whether it's stories, conversations about movies, games, or just everyday life. The Q would stand for quirky because they have the greatest sense of humor. They are some of the funniest teachers I have or will ever have. They are always cracking jokes when it is okay to crack jokes. The second U would stand for unnormal because they do not fit in with the true definition of normal by society standards, which is why they fit in as much as the students at Pivot. The last and final letter in the acronym unique is E. The E stands for enthusiastic. The reason why the staff at Pivot are enthusiastic is because they are always full of joy and happiness. One more reason why the staff at Pivot are enthusiastic because they will always encourage you to get your work done and support the school and after-school activities you are a part of. That is how I describe the staff at Pivot with the acronym unique. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for taking the time to listen to me talk about my school, Pivot Charter North Valley.
Very good, thank you. Okay, so now I'm going to do a running clock for 10 minutes. If you want to speak, this front row is open. So if people want to just come up and be ready to go from the front row. So she's coming up first, and if anybody else wants to speak, just come right up here on this front row, and then we don't have to wait for you to come up. So you could come up, yeah, you could go ahead and be first. And they'll just come up right here to the row, and let's let them get there. Okay, perfect. Okay, so go ahead and you can give your name, and I'm going to do a running 10-minute clock here. So, and like I said, if you don't get up, it's always, you could write us a letter. Okay. Okay, go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for listening to us and taking the time to hear our stories. My name is Robin Rowe. My family and I have enrolled our son, Caden, into Pivot. He has done amazing there. At first, I cannot express my gratitude for the learning opportunity Pivot has provided Caden. As a family, we found ourselves struggling to find the right fit for Caden after several attempts to position him in a variety of schools, only to have him fall further and further behind, as well as lose his self-confidence in comprehending school material. At first, Pivot was a challenge because he felt like, oh, it's just another school, I'm going to have another struggle. But as time passed, the staff's commitment to Caden held strong. He was able to rebuild his self-confidence and actually become enthusiastic about attending class. He soon built relationships with teachers and gained trust in open communication with them. I no longer have to pry him out of bed for school. He's up and ready and strives to do better, actually caring about his education, which is a first for him. Thank you to CORE, their entire staff, their individual teachers, for creating and providing a learning atmosphere that he is now thriving in. So thank you for that.
Good evening. My name is Kiana, and I am 15, and I'm in 10th grade, and this is my first year at Pivot. And I came to Pivot because I wanted to try something new academically. I was definitely quite the procrastinator, which I think a lot of people are nowadays. And when I came to Pivot, there was a tremendous change. My grades improved, my attendance improved, and I now wake up every day wanting to come to school because of all the opportunities that I'm given. And the teachers are just, they're so friendly, and they really want to help you, which is something that every student should feel when they go to school, because it's a lot different from a public school than just to learn something and then go home and then not know what you're learning. But for me, I'm a slower learner, so when I do go home and I do work, or if I'm at school, either way, I'm learning what the stuff that's given on the computer, I'm actually learning at my own pace, which is absolutely wonderful, and it works for me, and I love this school so much, and I don't know where I'm gonna go, but I am definitely appreciative of all the opportunities that I'm given, and yeah, I really, really enjoy this school. I'm really thankful and blessed to wake up every day and know that I'm a part of such a warm community, so thank you.
Hi. I would like to thank you guys for allowing me to speak today. My name is Faith Fedor, and I am a senior over at Pivot Charter School. I came to Pivot in the middle of my sophomore year. Sorry. Before Pivot, I went to a traditional school, and traditional school wasn't just working for me and how I was really far behind, and I had a lot of credits to finish when I went to Pivot. This teacher right here, Travis, and Susan Raven helps me a lot for my school, helping me with math and science and subjects that I needed help with. And I wanted to personally thank all the teachers here at Pivot for helping myself and all my classmates. Pivot is an amazing school, and one of our fun things is our field trips, and then we take to Ashland, Oregon, and that we're taking to San Francisco this Friday. And our first prom was last year, and it was really fun. Pivot is just so amazing, where you can just be ourselves. We can dance around and sing and just listen to old school music. I would recommend this school to any student that needed more personal help or needed to advance in their schooling. Pivot Charter School is like my second home, where I can come to school and be myself and talk to people where I need help. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and have a good evening.
I'll try to be brief. I don't want to be repetitive, but my name is Lavon Hernandez. My son is 11 years old, and in June, he went to his ceremony at a traditional school of 5th grade, and he got his certificate that he graduated, and then we got his report card, and his report card was straight Fs. And so he just threw it away and said, well, what was the point? I get to go to 6th grade, but I didn't learn anything, and I got all bad grades. And his self-esteem was just in the trash. And so during the summertime, we were trying to figure out, what are we gonna do? You know, he hates school, he's not doing good, he's just not able to get the one-on-one that he really needs. And so we found Pivot, and we were able to, now he comes to school, he's ready to go, he wants to go, he's learning, he's excelled, he's not getting straight Fs, he's, you know, top, doing not just the minimum, but more. and he likes it. He's like, wow, why wasn't all schools like this? You know, and I really, I'm excited that he's, you know, taking charge of his education with all the support of staff. And traditional's not for everybody, and for him, Pivot is what's going to make him one day graduate and go further. So thank you for your time.
Hi, my name's Aspen. I'm a senior at Pivot, and I've been here for 4 years. It was 3.5. I was truant for my couple last years of elementary school through middle school and the first part of high school. And I would not have even thought about graduating if it wasn't for Pivot. And now I am also taking Butte classes, and my first class was with Susan, her beginning algebra class, and I'm actually going to take it next semester for my electives. I really like math, and I never thought that I would have a life, like a real life. I thought I would just be working at McDonald's as a career. That was basically where my life was going. And now I can see myself going to college, getting a true degree in criminal psychology and a law degree, and truly making something of myself. So thank you for everybody at Pivot. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon. I hope you all are having a very good evening so far. And I'm very proud and happy to be a student at Pivot. Today is my second day of Pivot, and I enjoyed it so much. Today was actually my first full day of Pivot. Yesterday when I went and met my teacher, which is actually Tom Lando, a very nice guy, all my worries went out the window and I felt right at home when he showed me to my spot that I would be sitting at. I was sitting next to very nice other students around me, and I felt so at home, and I didn't... Pivot is so amazing. You could express yourself. Today, I wore a plaid flannel with galaxy bands, and I didn't even care. No one else cared, so... It's a wonderful school, and I've never felt more successful in my life with this program, and I hope that I will achieve big things from this school starting out here. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Zeb Parsons. I am a sophomore, and this is my second year of Pivot. Probably the greatest school I've attended so far. But besides it being a great school and a great educational system, it has helped me socially. I was very shy. In fact, I probably wouldn't be up here if I wasn't in Pivot. In fact, I'm shaking. But it's helped me to really socialize and make friends and find people that are like me. It's sorry, I'm almost tearing up. It's just a really great place that helps me. Like I suck at English. I'm just gonna admit it right now. But you know, like with Robert, he's helped me a lot in English, and like my current instructor Travis has helped me a lot in math. It's just an amazing place to be. Like I probably don't have much time, so I'm just gonna make this short. Great place. 10 out of 10. I'd recommend it. It's great. That's all I got to say. Thank you for your time.
And that was very good. That's right at your 10 minutes. So,
Okay.
but
Well, I love Pivot.
she loves Pivot. But thank you so much, and we appreciate you coming and talking to us. So, Mr. Bohannon, do you have anything else for us right now?
No, just that the Charter Committee for Chico Unified will bring a recommendation to the board at the November 15th board meeting.
Very well. So I will now close the public hearing. And I'm also going to, because a lot of you are here from Pivot, we're going to have a small recess, 5 minutes. If you feel like you would like to leave now, you're more than welcome to do that because you came for this. And yeah, so we have a small recess. Okay, we will start in 1 minute. My mic's off. Testing,
We are
testing.
starting in 1 minute.
Testing, testing. I just did now. There we go. We will be starting in 1 minute. Uno momento. All right, thank you very much. We'll call our meeting back to order, and we are on item 10.2.1. Julie should be here. Yeah, she is. Okay, thank you, Julie.
Thank you and good evening. The Measure K Charter Facilities Committee has been active. They brought us a project that for recommendation to the board. The most recent project is a request for planning funds for Inspire School of Arts and Sciences. And on the application that was approved, it says that Inspire would like to add 2 double-wide relocatables just north of the campus between the current Inspire office and the current small staff parking lot. They were requesting planning funds to hire architects and other necessary consultants to complete this work. However, Chico Unified is supportive of their request for planning funds. After careful thought and brainstorming between Inspire's principal, Eric Nielsen of Inspire, Mark Beebe at Chico High, Kevin Bultema, and the charter facility mentor, Mike Weisenborn, we have decided that the planning funds should be directed toward development of options based on a space utilization analysis and long-term facility goals for Inspire. We're kind of jumping the gun on what they were going to do. So we're going to pull that back a little bit and do some exploration. At this point, the district is not supportive of a plan to expand the footprint of Inspire on the Chico High School campus without going through this option development and analysis first. A skilled architect and planner is necessary to facilitate this process, and we would ask that Inspire come back to the district so we can communicate back to the Board of Education the results of this work. Yes.
So Julie, since this is a change in what was submitted, just to get clarification, you are recommending money for them to do the planning. Do we have a figure on that money?
We're going to stick with the $70,000, yes.
Okay, so we're staying at that figure, but we're asking them to do a different kind of analysis.
Correct. Okay. We're asking them to hire the consultants to basically do some master planning of their facility based on their utilization, their needs, and assessing different options for locations.
How does Inspire feel about this? They're okay with it?
Evening. How are you guys doing? Hi. I think that it was a wise choice to step back and to actually look at this in the broader context. So we're definitely supportive of that kind of a move. I will say, though, that as we go through this process and we are determining timelines and short-term, long-term is is probably one of the most challenging, kind of delicate dances we can do around this, that we would prefer to still have an option to, if in terms of exploring longer-term solutions, that is a longer timeline than we expected. We have some stronger short-term needs, but after discussions, it appears wise to have as little footprint as possible, but we still are concerned about having the option to be able to have some kind of a footprint for student services needs and for CTE program needs in the shorter term. The idea, though, I think that is wise is to leverage as few of those funds as possible to do that, but try to get a balance when it comes to that. So that's my basic response to. I think we're going down the right path. We need to take a stronger look at what our options are, but still hoping that we have some flexibility with the shorter term if we end up on the Chico campus in the next few years. That's how I would respond to this.
So Julie, then our action is for this planning change, funding for the planning change, correct?
Yes. Funding for planning at $70,000 with an amendment to the scope of the planning.
Okay, so that's our action. Do I see a?
I move that we, how do we say this? That we approve the proposed amount for planning purposes and the modification to the scope of that. Do we need to say more? That will work? Okay.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? Seeing none, any discussion from the audience? I see none. All those in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Okay, we will now move to item 10.2.2. Is that Kevin?
So what we're bringing to you is a request to adjust board policy 3400 to change our capitalization threshold from currently $10,000 to $100,000. If you remember, we have already adjusted our administrative regulation 3300 to reflect this change, and in practice that is what we've done for the entire fiscal year 2016-17. The reality is that we looked at the policy 3300 and there was no reference to the specific threshold. So we did not bring an adjustment to the policy when we adjusted the administrative reg. After further review, we realized in board policy 3400, it actually then references the capitalization threshold. So we're bringing this to you to make sure that our board policy ultimately reflects our practice, and it is our recommendation. The reality is that school districts didn't report its fixed assets until GASB 34. Frankly, it is more of a formal financial statement presentation. We think this reduces our workload, doesn't change the financial presentation or the performance of the school district.
Mr. Chairman, I move that
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Do we have any other discussion? Any from the audience? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. We'll now move down to 10.2.3, where the brains of the district come up.
Yes, we just want you to know how much you are appreciated.
Yes.
He needs you.
Yes.
So before you this evening, we're going to start off with the resolution regarding the GAN appropriations limit. At this point, it's a pro forma calculation that's required by the state as more of a formality. So we're asking this evening to approve the GAN limit as well as the resolution associated with it.
And in English, that means there's nothing that anybody does to make this different, right?
Correct.
Thank you.
I move approval of item 10.2.3.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none. Any from the audience? I see none. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Passes 5-0. See, you guys are bright and quick. Okay, now we go to item 10.2.4.
Yeah, tonight we're going to present the 2016-17 unaudited actuals. I wanted to start out by saying that the SACS document that was provided in the actual board packet, I realize it's very long, lengthy, and confusing. That's provided, really for purposes of transparency. The SACS document is the official document required by Ed Code. So that is why we provide it, and that is why we are here to explain what everything actually means.
So Kathy doesn't lose sleep tonight.
I hope not. Okay. The unaudited actuals represents actual revenues and expenditures for the year. What you usually see are budgets. This is not a budget, it's our true financial performance. And these are the numbers before the annual audit is complete. We currently have auditors in our office working on that, and we will present the audit in January. Okay. So for financial events, since most of our funding is driven by attendance, this slide shows what our funded ADA was.
Is that right?
Oh.
Then, sorry.
Oh, really? Yeah, I have that. Okay. Okay, so what this graph shows really is this year, 16-17, and prior year, our funded ADA is the same as our actual ADA. That's because we're in a period of growing enrollment. We put 13, 14, 14, 15 on this to show in years of declining enrollment, the district can use prior year ADA. So that's why funded ADA in those years is higher than actual. Okay. We are in the 4th year of the new state allocation formula. We're getting closer to closing that gap. So in 16-17, we received $5.2 million more revenue. So where that went, the full impact of the 14-15 3-year settlement was realized in 16-17. That was approximately $3 million. The district reached an agreement with all of the bargaining units in 16-17 for a 1% compensation increase. That was approximately $1 million. There was an additional compensation agreement settled with CUTA and CUMA based on negotiations language. That was $300,000. And as you know, STRS PERS costs are going up, and $1 million of that was realized in 16-17. Okay, this is a very summarized income statement. Basically, what we're seeing is for our bottom line, Chico Unified came very close to even this year. So on the unrestricted side, we were up 162, restricted down 258, for a total of just around 100,000, which is a very balanced budget given our $130 million budget. Actuals, which is the last budget that we brought to you, versus unrestricted or unaudited actuals. So the big thing here is you could see at EA, we estimated that we would be down 927,000. We actually came out up 162 for a difference of a little bit over $1 million. So you might ask why there would be such a big difference. That's the next slide. Most of this was due to one-time money. We had budgeted to have about 1 million spent in 16-17 on technology. There was some holdup on getting the Chromebooks ordered, so that money was actually spent in 17-18, not 16-17. That's pretty much a big portion of it. Other things, there's other variances. They're 1% until after EA also. Of our contributions to restricted programs. Seven of it is RDA pass-through, and that's used for a portion of the RMA. Yes.
I can play. The percentage of the special ed increase varied on these different pages about how much a percentage increase it was. It was always an increase, never going down. We know there's reference to, well, districts can take off funding if, a particularly expensive student back or whatever. Nationally. So what is our best guess at our actual percentage increase in special ed? We were usually just seeing 1 year. Do we actually have a profile where we could kind of say what the increase is percentage-wise?
Historically, special ed increases about $1 million year over year. So that's step and column. We net that against retirements. That's person STIRS increase. That's additional classes being added. We added 3 classes this year. I think we're projected to add another 2 or 3 next year due to the services that the students need. So the $13 million that you're seeing on the screen here, those are local dollars.
Yeah, okay.
That are being contributed
yeah.
to the special ed program. So it's about 50%. We run about a $25 million special ed program.
Okay.
So the other $12 million comes from state and federal revenue.
Okay, so 1 million of the 17 million or our total million is not the same percentage as 1 million next year of our, you see what I'm saying? I'm looking to see outside of the chunk of money, do we actually also have an angle of increase that we can kind of project? Do you understand what I'm saying, Kevin?
I think so. I mean, when you look at the special ed program, you're seeing a contribution of general ed unrestricted money into the program, but the program itself also receives money through the SELPA. So the total program cost is what, 22 million?
25 million.
So it's about a $25 million program. So I think what you're saying is on a program-wide basis, when you look at that increase of $1 million a year, we're comparing that to the prior year actuals.
Okay.
Is what we're really saying. So kind of the year over year. And what we see is when we budget at original budget, it's often $1 million estimate. And what you'll see then as the year goes on, and we realize we may not have as many kids, especially in the NPS, the non-public school placements, we will see our adjustments go down from that point. So, and we've said this before, original is always our most conservative view. And then it will ratchet itself down to the point where this last year, I think ultimately the increase was less than 400,000.
So we don't really have control over a student who might no longer need a certain level of services or who might move out of district. So, I mean, this is a fluid situation, hopefully best based on a student's improving status.
It is, but I think you'll see, I would give our special ed group quite a bit of credit because they continue to look at different ways to serve that child versus sending them to a non-public school placement. So, you know, we've added a class, I think, in 16-17 or 15-16 that started serving 3 or 4 of those students that we used to send out for a non-public school. So it was a much more economical way, and frankly, we think a better way because we have more direct services for that child, could provide more wraparound services. So, we are looking at ways to better serve. The reality, however, is that not only are we seeing our special ed numbers increase, but the designations are changing to see more ED, more autism that really creates and costs more.
So looking at total expenditures, we are a people business. You can see that salaries and benefits are 82% of total expenses. That is the three biggest pieces of the pie. Then if we look at this, including the special ed contribution, we are up to 89% of unrestricted expenses. So almost 90% of what we get goes to the kids in form of teachers and support staff.
And let me just jump in. If you looked a couple years ago, that percentage was much higher, 92, 93%. But we weren't really using the 3% for the routine restricted maintenance because, again, that was the flexibility that the governor granted us during the economic downturn. But now because more money, over 3% of the budget is going for RRMA specifically, you're seeing that percentage go down. So it's not necessarily reflective that we're paying our teachers less. It's really more of a function that we have some other priorities that are also eating the budget, and that's a legal requirement to do the 3%.
Okay, and minimum classroom expenses is something that comes out on that SACS report. And unified school districts are required to spend at least 55% on classroom expenses, and we spent 63.28% in 16-17.
So how are they summarizing classroom expenses? Does that include teachers?
Teachers. Yes, definitely teachers.
So Marie spoke about the revenues and expenditures. So I'm going to talk about the ending fund balance. So we had a great year. We essentially broke even. So the revenues we brought in 16-17 matched our expenditures. It's a great year. But we also want to talk about reserves. And we're in a pretty fortunate situation right now. In 16-17, we had unrestricted ending fund balance of just over 18 million in totality. So we do designate 5% for a reserve, the 3% required, and the 2 additional that the board has added. The other designations, the area in green, that's our site carryover for our programs, and that's the one-time money from 15-16 and 16-17 that we're spending down in multiple years. So really kind of the periwinkle color at the top is the unassigned. It's just about 7 million for 16-17. So we're in a very healthy situation, I would say, with our reserves and having that money from a cash perspective, which I'll get into, to be able to help us in the lower months. So one of the things the board asked for a couple years ago was, we have this $4 million sitting on the restricted side of the budget. What is it? So a couple of the key areas, we have the Medi-Cal collaborative billing. They have a balance of $477,000. There's some Prop 39 clean energy money. That's just over $600,000. We still had a little bit of educator effectiveness left as of June 30. It's subsequently been spent. We've done a lot of professional development. Routine restricted maintenance, which is the RRMA account, had just over $300,000. Donations pretty healthy with our school sites at $400,000. And then we do have this money on the restricted side regarding the MA potential liability of a repayment there. So that's most of it that makes up the 4.1 million. So I do want to talk about cash. So cash is king. That's what we need to pay the bills ultimately. So we are in a very appropriate pattern, I guess, for the last couple years. So blue is what 15-16 was, green was 16-17, and 17-18 projection looks really similar. November tends to be our low month for cash purposes. I will say with the healthy reserves that we have, I don't expect to have to come forward to do any sort of interfund borrowing for next month. I've been watching it pretty closely in October, and we're looking really healthy. December usually spike way up, as you can see. We get EPA, we get state aid, and we get property taxes, which is what causes that huge spike in cash. And we usually end the year with plenty of cash to start the next fiscal year.
And this is a political question rather than financial. So I've already had neighbors, bring to me their tax bill. There's 4 or 5, depending on where they live, for going to us. And And I'm pretty quick with, yeah, it's the schools and da-da-da-da-da. But I think it's appropriate in January when people are paying these to give a reminder about how that money gets spent by us. Because people's property values were up. The county reassessed and raised property values. And so it's a little bit of sticker shock when they weren't paying attention to it before, and now they suddenly go, oh my gosh, and they're paying attention. So just it's one thing for us to say, yeah, look, this is great. We get lots more money because we get taxes, but we ought to then put out a statement about what we're spending that lot more money on.
Yeah, and I would just delineate on that the property taxes that most people put into an impound count, for example, is what's coming here. What I think you're seeing now is people getting their tax roll related to the new bond measures, and that is completely outside of this. And so when we come back with an annual report on developer fees and construction projects, and I know Julie Kissel and her group is great about that, here's what we're doing with the dollars. That's where the tax roll money comes in, where I think people kind of went into a little sticker shock because Measure K was on there this year, and that was the big addition. So we can certainly bring back that. So we wanted to talk about one-time money. We talk about it when we talk about the budget and the impact that the one-time dollars have. But we also want to talk about the fact that we got this one-time money in 15, 16, and we're planning on spending it over 5 years. So we really want to be good stewards of the money. We want to talk about what's going to give us the biggest bang for our buck. So what we have here is what we actually spent by category for the last 2 fiscal years and what we're projected to budget in the current year and the 2 out years. So it slowly gets smaller as we go out. But athletics is fully done. Our playground equipment at Citrus and Chapman is completely done. A lot of the technology for replacement devices is going to be coming in the future years, and you can see that kind of push forward. Facilities, they're doing PE lockers at Chico High and PV, the AC at the gyms at Chico High and PV, as well as painting of the exterior schools. So Eric German talked about the painting of the exterior schools, I think, at last month's meeting, and it really does make a big difference when it talks about curb appeal. And then we also got another $2.4 million last year that was basically allocated between technology, school bus replacement, and nutrition services. So we bought a bus last year, fully. It was more than $200,000, but $200,000 came out of here, and the rest came out of the transportation to budget. Technology, that $947,000, I can tell you has already been spent. John Vincent put in $1 million Chromebook order regarding the deployment of those Chromebooks to the junior highs. It'll be coming out soon. So we're actively working on spending this money, but being very methodical about how we're spending the dollars. So kind of wrap up tonight, we want to say that funding for education has increased, and that's a good thing for us. The state economy continues to be stable. I know we talk about cycles, but really the revenues have been pretty strong at the state level. So the big things that happened this year is the 6% mid-year raise that went into effect in 15-16. From an employer perspective for Chico Unified, we felt the full impact of that in 16-17, the remaining 3%. Pers and Stirs continues to increase. We'll talk about it probably every time we're up here. LCFF is approaching full funding, so once we get to full funding, then all we'll get was COLA after that, which about 2%-ish. So it'll be minimal dollars going forward, unless we continue to increase in ADA, which is a great thing for Chico Unified. And lastly, I want to end on a high note. We had a great fiscal year. We basically broke even. So these are actuals, like Marie talked about. It's not a budget. Actually what happened. We will be back at the December board meeting to bring you first interim. So we'll have all of the carryover dollars, the current reserve level, as well as a revised budget for the current year to talk about moving forward for Chico.
Jacqueline, I have one. Oh, go ahead.
I sort of hate to do this because then it'll make Kevin feel even better than he does after the game. However, we went through a number of years where people would stop you and say, how can you spend money you don't have, and how do you end up in this hole, and so I just want to compliment the whole team here on how closely and how well you were able to moderate that. I don't know what he would do if he didn't have you two, but really it's a team effort, and congratulations to you guys.
Yes, thank you very much. And just a quick question on carryover dollars. So we broke even this year, but with carryover dollars that we don't see, did we actually do better? I mean, were there some expenses that need to be paid with the next year from
Yeah,
carry?
so our reserve level went up slightly.
Okay.
And so basically, if you didn't spend it in 16, 17, those dollars get carried over 17, 18, they basically come out of your reserve or savings.
So you would see it in the reserve.
Correct.
Is where you look. Thank you.
Correct.
I just had a quick question too. In your presentation earlier, you talked about salary and benefits being about 89% of our budget. Is that fairly typical in school districts to have that range?
Yeah, it is, especially for a district the size of Chico. We tend to run probably closer to 90. When I was in a small district, the number was always 85.
Okay.
Because you just don't have the same economy of scale.
Right.
So I think, again, as we pointed out, we had a good year because we brought in money, we spent it.
Yep.
We're an educational organization. Our goal is to take in the dollars and provide educational services. So, so overall, we
Absolutely.
yeah.
Thank you, and thank you for keeping tabs on that budget. So
No problem.
Okay, so this is an action item. I would believe it is to approve the unaudited
Correct.
numbers, correct?
Yes.
All
I
right.
move that we approve. A second.
We had a stereo movement there, but we also had a second. So we have Kathy. Kathy made the motion. And yeah. So do we have any other discussion? See none. Any discussion? Any discussion from the audience? I see none. All those in favor? Aye. Passes 5-0.
Well, I do want to thank Jacqueline and Marie
Yes.
for all their work. They worked very hard to present these financial statements. Ultimately, we have auditors who are at our site right now looking at these numbers, and I'm very confident that there will be very little change. But I also realize that you're starting to actually believe me when I say that they are smarter than I am.
Yeah.
I need to change that.
Yeah, we're
starting to become obsolete, I think.
There you go.
Anyway, they do a great job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, any items from the floor? These are items that were not on the agenda. You want more time? Do you need another second? You mean the next agenda? Okay, so what'll happen is you put your name down and what you're interested in, and then staff will notify you and see if it's possible to put it on the agenda next time. But we have all the information. Okay.
Yeah, that's what.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to connect you with our Director of Food Services. Who
Yeah, so
really
that's the
does a lot
procedure.
with
Talk with
fresh.
them first, and then we'll see if there's something to bring to the agenda, okay? And thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it. All right, and now we'll move over to announcements. Do we have any announcements? I was looking, I didn't see any. Do you see any? Nope. Okay, there are no other items from the floor. Announcements, any other announcements? Just the fact that Chico Field Hockey won 3-0. And last night, I believe there was a tennis match for section championships that was also won by Chico High girls. So, I'm sorry? Semifinals. Okay. And golf was PV. Okay, so lots of representation. Almond Bowl this weekend, Friday. Okay, I believe that's it. Adjournment.